Honestly, going into 2020, I had a lot of big hopes, a lot of expectations into, the movies that were going to come out since I knew that there were going to be a lot of great movies released this year, and that didn't happen. Hello everybody, my name is Charles and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, hi, my name is Charles and yes, welcome. So today I thought I would talk about the top 10 movies that I saw from 2020, and yes, there was very, very, very little to pick from. I mean, it was very sad to see that the majority of the movies that I watched this year were older movies that I had never seen before, but you know what, I was determined to watch some movies from 2020, and I was able to make a list of movies that I saw in 2020, and it's okay. I know some people have been able to watch movies in theaters because the theaters in their states have been open, but you know what? Here in Washington, the theaters have been pretty much closed. They reopened briefly, but then they closed right back down, and during that time period, I was only able to see Freaky in theaters, and just going into theaters once, I was like, I really do not want to have to go out to watch a movie in theaters during this pandemic, and I was like, Freaky, I was like, it was a good movie, so I was like, yes, I will brave, like, the pandemic to go see this, but I was like, if I'm gonna go to the theaters again, it would have to be for a good movie, and Promising Young Woman is in theaters, and I can't see it because the theaters are closed, which sucks, so that means I have to wait like 17 days until it's available to rent on streaming, and annoying. Anyways, thanks to streaming services and some movies just going straight to PVOD, I was able to see a few good movies, and a lot of movies from 2020 were moved to 2021, and I'm just like, some people have been able to see those movies that were pushed to 2021 already, and I'm very jealous, but you know what? I was able to watch a good amount of good movies from 2020, so, well, let me talk about them now. But first, I'm going to say, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, you totally should, because I talk about movies, I talk about Blu-rays, and I do music reactions, and I do, whatever else I want to do, because, it's my channel, and I'm just here for fun. So, yes, subscribe if any of that sounds like interesting to you, and you want to see this face talking and all that. So at number 10 on my top 10 movies list of 2020 would have to be Onward. Yes, Onward. This movie was released legit at the start and onset of the pandemic here in the US. I remember watching Onward in theaters and being like, ooh, okay, yes, but then at the same time being like, ooh, no, there's a pandemic starting to start here and I am kind of scared going into the theaters. It must be said that the trailers for Onward were atrocious, and Chris Pratt being one of the main characters really didn't help, like, my attraction toward this movie and, like, wanting to see it. I was like, ugh, this looks bad, and Chris Pratt is always a bleh since he, like, changed his ways, and I'm just like, ugh. But you know what? It was a Disney Pixar movie, so I was like, I'm gonna see it, regardless. And also, Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Octavia Spencer were in it, so I was like, we must support the girls. Recently, Disney released Soul on Disney Plus, and a lot of people have been like hyping that movie up and being like, this is a masterpiece, this is amazing, it's so much better than Inside Out, or even Onward from earlier in this year. And I was just like, look, I like Soul, but the story going on in Onward and the journey you go on Onward, I don't know, it just had more of an emotional impact on me than Soul did, even though I found Soul to be quite beautiful. I really love how in Onward, the story of Onward is based on the director's real life situation. Based, I don't know on like how much it is really based on his life, but I found the story of these two brothers wanting to see their dad, and then, the youngest brother who has never met their dad, like coming to terms and realizing that his older brother, who he found like super annoying and weird and all that for like a lot of his life, that like his older brother really was in a way his father figure. And I was like, the way they went on this journey and him realizing it, and at the very end when like all said and done and the things they were showing, I was like, this is beautiful and this is powerful, and it kind of relates to, in my opinion, Chosen Family, because I know it's like the character in Onward, what's his name? Ian. His name is Ian. But yeah, Ian, like, for the most part in this movie, he was like, my dad. And then at the very end of the movie, he realizes, as I said earlier, that Barley is actually also his dad, because he raised him and, like, did all these things that a dad should do. And I'm just like, it really comes around to this message, in my opinion, of Chosen Family, kind of. Because I know, like, in Chosen Families, it's like, you can have the family you want, like, a quote-unquote mom and dad and, like, siblings that you want, like, created by friends and people that you've, like, grown to know, not just blood ties. And I don't know, this movie, it just really highlighted to me that like these figures that you're supposed to have in your life don't really have to be like the actual like figures by blood. They can be even like friends or even people who are just your siblings. They can represent these figures for you, kind of like in Lilo and Stitch, how Nani was really Lilo's like mother in a sense, because she's the one who took care of her even though she's just her big sister. And yeah, Onward, it made me cry when I watched it. I was like, whoa, this is some powerful stuff. I did not realize that was gonna happen. I really do hope that Onward gets an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Film, but you know what? I feel like if it doesn't, then of course Soul's gonna get the nomination, and Soul's most likely gonna win. And there's nothing against Soul for me. I think Soul, as I said earlier, is beautiful. It's like beautifully animated, and there's a good message, but you know what? The message just didn't hit me like as hard as I think they really wanted it to hit. I mean, I saw all the moments in that movie, but I was like, I'm not crying, but I get the message and I think it's good, but I don't know. Some people online were just like, I'm crying, it's a masterpiece, blah blah blah. And I was like, ooh, play, Alexa, play The Weeknd's Heartless, because maybe I'm heartless for not crying to this. I mean, I never cried during Coco, but then again, I've only watched Coco once, so maybe I should return to Coco. But anyway, I'm just saying, Onward should get an Oscar nomination, and honestly, even though it's not as, like, beautiful and, like, as well animated as Soul is, I'm just like, I do kind of like the story going on in Onward better than Soul, so that's why Onward is on my list and Soul isn't. Moving on to the next movie on my list, at number 9, which would have to be Possessor. When I heard David Cronenberg's son, Brandon Cronenberg, made a movie, I was like, is this gonna be a good situation of nepotism, or is it gonna be a bad situation? And after watching the movie, I was like, ooh, no, this is good. Brandon Cronenberg really delivered something here very, very special and amazing. This movie really wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be more violent, more action-packed, but you know, I should have known better, because Brandon Cronenberg, as I said, is the son of David Cronenberg, and David Cronenberg was more about the cerebral things going on and like body horror, and both those things are present in this movie, and I'm just like, once again, my expectations were subverted with what I thought I was gonna see in this movie. I mean, yes, there is violence in this movie, and you know, like body like horror and like sex and all that, just like in David Cronenberg's work, but I don't know, this movie, it was just hypnotic. It's very hard to describe exactly why. The visuals going on in this movie were stunning, especially like the sequences in like the mind, what was going on with all the mind stuff. I was like, this is such an interesting like way to show all this going on. I mean, it was something that blew my mind. And yeah, moving on to number 8 on my list, which would have to be The Broken Hearts Gallery. And I just gotta say, I really love romantic comedies, and I was just so glad that a good romantic comedy came out this year, and I really wish there would be more romantic comedies coming out, and that, you know, they would be of good quality, because we don't really get that many good romantic comedies coming out anymore, and it's very sad. I thought that Geraldine Viswanathan and Dacre Montgomery had excellent chemistry in this movie. It was very believable, and I don't know, I was just rooting for them the whole movie. I was like, y'all seem so cute and adorable together. And you know, Geraldine's friends in the movie, Philippa Sue and Molly Gordon, they were excellent best friends, and I was just like, the cast in this movie was doing the damn work. I mean, Bernadette Peters, even though she was only in the movie for a few scenes, I was like, baby, Broadway legend Bernadette Peters is here to give you her blessing and be like, yeah, I think this is a good movie, which is why I'm here, baby. Bernadette Peters don't waste her time being in something unless she thinks it's good, so she's in this movie, so which means, you know, it's good, you know, by the rules of all of that junk. Yeah, but at the end of the day, this movie is very cute, it's very sweet, and if you love romantic comedies like I do, then you should check it out, because, I don't know, it really made me happy, and it just gave me a sense of, you know, like, good romantic comedy vibes. I mean, the last good romantic comedy in my mind was Crazy Rich Asians, and that was like a while ago, so I don't like this trend of romantic comedies, like good ones, coming and going every few years. I mean, seriously, in the 90s, romantic comedies were busting their asses and being the genre, and now romantic comedies have really faded, and when they do come out, they're usually not that good, so I want a return to form for romantic comedies, please. If you haven't seen the Broken Hearts Gallery, do yourself a favor and go watch it. Go, borrow it via streaming on some like iTunes or Vudu or wherever you like, borrow movies. Or, if there's a Redbox around you, then go to the Redbox and rent it, because that's how I watched it for the first time, and then I bought it because I thought it was that good of a movie. So yeah, I mean, go watch it. It could use your support. And also, it was executive produced by Selena Gomez. So that's how I heard about the movie, and I am very glad I was able to see it. Speaking of romantic comedies, number 7 on my list would have to be Palm Springs. I heard about this movie during the film festival circuit at the very start of this year, because I'm pretty sure it premiered at Sundance. So I was like, ooh, this sounds like it's going to be like a good romantic comedy movie that's going to be in theaters. But then once again, when the pandemic came, everything changed. Dun dun dun, Avatar. But yeah, I'm just like, I was very like, oh my god, how am I gonna watch this movie? Because like, once the pandemic really came in full force, I legit forgot this movie was even like being talked about. But then when Hulu acquired it, I was like, oh my god, it's this movie that I remember being talked about at the start of the year, and now I get the chance to watch it. I love the whole sci-fi Groundhog's Day like premise this movie has, and I love Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti? Is that how you say her name? I've seen her in like How I Met Your Mother and like one episode of 30 Rock, and I've loved her. And also she was in that Black Mirror episode, the USS Callister. So I'm familiar with her work, and I've known that she's an amazing actress for a long time. And in this movie, she relates to Shine, and I'm just like, wow, she is amazing. And both her and Andy Samberg together, just like in the Broken Hearts Gallery with Geraldine and Dacre, have amazing chemistry. I mean, the chemistry between the two lead actors has to be good for any romantic comedy to flourish. But then again, you also need a good premise for the movie. I honestly love how in the Broken Hearts Gallery, it's really comforting romantic comedy. Like, even though it had some like new elements to the whole genre, it really much, for the most part, stays in romantic comedy zone. And you can kind of like guess what's gonna happen next. You kind of can. But like, with this movie, I felt like it was a step forward in the romantic comedy genre, making it like a little bit more quirky and giving it a lot more like fun and things to do in it, other than just the two main characters falling in love. There was actually something else they were trying to solve, and I was like, yes, this is great. Just like the Broken Hearts Gallery, this movie is pretty short too. It is a quick 90 minutes long. So, if you have Hulu and you haven't seen this movie, you should do yourself a favor and go watch it now, because that movie is an amazing movie in my opinion, and it's just a really fun time. So if you want to watch a really good romantic comedy movie, and if you really like Andy Samberg, which I do, I don't know why I love the white man so much, but I really do. But if you like Andy, or if you like Kristen, I think that's how you say her name. My god, I feel like I botch her name every time, but whatever. Like, if you like those two and you like a good romantic comedy, then check that movie out too, because, Palm Springs, it's a good movie, and if you have Hulu, then it's right at your fingertips to watch already. So, for free, include it in your subscription. So, yeah, go watch it if you have not seen it yet. Number 6 on my list would have to be On the Rocks from Sofia Coppola. I just found this movie to be a very fun movie. It's mostly a movie about the relationship between a father and daughter played by Bill Murray and Rashida Jones, and it's like the whole movie they're together for the most part, and they're like trying to figure out if Rashida Jones' husband is cheating on her, and I'm just like, the two of them are bonding and talking about things in their past and like talking about things in their present, and I'm like, I don't know, I thought it was just a really sweet father-daughter movie, and about like learning more about each other. Even though they were pretty much really close already, they really were able to dig more into things that like they were holding back, especially Rashida's character. She was like, there were things she wanted to say to Bill Murray's character that she hadn't for years, but during the course of this movie she was like, I'm gonna talk about it now since we're like together for so long right now. I really hope that Bill Murray gets that Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Oscars, but I don't know. His name has been going in and out of like critic circles, so I'm just like, I don't know how strong his position is, because I really like the movie, but I really don't think any other thing a part of the movie is strong enough to get like an Oscar nomination other than Bill Murray. I mean, it is a very nice movie. Some people have described this movie as Sofia Coppola's The Intern, and I'm just like, yeah. Like, relating this movie to Nancy Meyers' iconic The Intern, and yes, that movie is iconic. If you don't think The Intern from Nancy Meyers is iconic, then guess what? You are Boo-Boo the Fool, because that movie is great. I cry every time watching that movie, and Nancy Meyers deserves more credit than she has gotten, and random tangent that I have gone on. I mean, I guess it wasn't such a random tangent because I was talking about The Intern and how The Intern is like a movie people were relating to On the Rocks. But you know what? I just got really into the whole Nancy Meyers of it when we're supposed to be talking about Sofia Coppola's On the Rocks. But yeah, On the Rocks, I think it's a great movie, and I think it really is not being talked about that much because it's on Apple TV, and not many people have Apple TV, so I feel like the general public just hasn't seen it because they don't have Apple TV, and you know, that really sucks. But you know what? I really hope that Bill Murray can get an Oscar nomination for his performance in this movie. If he can secure the Oscar nomination for this movie, that means both of his Oscar nominations would be for Sofia Coppola movies, and I'm just like, wow. The power of Sofia Coppola, you guys. The power of Sofia Coppola. And I'm just like, stan Sofia Coppola if you haven't already. You know, her filmography is amazing. Her best movie would probably have to be The Virgin Suicides for me. I need to rewatch Lost in Translation, but I think Sofia Coppola is an amazing director, and I feel like this movie deserves a lot more praise than it has gotten. Like, the user reviews for this are not so great, and I'm just like, why, you guys? This movie is perfectly great, and y'all just hate Sofia Coppola because she apparently was horrible in The Godfather 3. Never watched that one, and I'm not going to yet. Number 5 on my list would have to be the extremely underrated movie Buffalo, and yes, it came out in 2020. It says it came out in 2019, but it premiered in theaters like in early 2020 in January, so it came out in 2020, so I'm counting it in here. And I first saw it on Hulu in 2020, so yeah. Zoe Deutsch is giving a star-making performance in this movie, and I will be shouting from the rooftops like how she is so amazing in this movie and how she should be getting a lot more work because of this movie. Just this movie alone, the range Zoe Deutsch shows in this movie, oh my god, amazing. This movie is kind of like Wolf of Wall Street in a sense that you have scammers trying to scam people, but then again, it's like this isn't a group of scammers. This is Zoe Deutsch being the scamstress that she is in this movie, and it's like, she's like, I gotta make those dollar bills. But you know what? She's doing it in a more legal way, like, not morally good, but a very legal way nonetheless. I just really love the energy going on in this movie, and I love the whole story going on. It was very, very compelling and interesting, and it's a very short movie too, so I was just like, I'm in full throttle, and you guys should be too if you haven't watched this movie already. And it's streaming on Hulu, I believe, so if you have Hulu, you should go watch this movie because it's amazing, and you should watch it before it goes, because I don't know if it's still on there, but that's where I watched it for the first time. Also, I really love Judy Greer and Noah Reid in this movie. They play Zoe Deutsch's mom and brother in this movie, and I don't know, the three of them as a family, they really had a really good family dynamic, and I don't know, it just really added layers to this movie. You know, on top of being a movie about a girl who's trying to get enough money to like live a really good life and just be like, see ya, like Buffalo, New York, because apparently Buffalo, New York is boring, so she's like, gotta get out of here. But yeah, Judy Greer and Noah Reid as her like family, very interesting and good dynamics going on. If you like The Wolf of Wall Street, then you should definitely check this movie out. And also, this movie is directed by a woman, Tanya Wexler, and she does an amazing job with this movie. So support a movie directed by a woman because, you know, they need a lot of support. That way they can get more movies made in Hollywood, and that way movies in Hollywood aren't always directed by guys. So yeah, give this movie a watch because it's amazing, and don't be fooled by its Rotten Tomatoes score, which I'm pretty sure is hovering around the 70s last time I checked it, like months ago, but it deserves more praise than that because it's actually a pretty great movie. At number 4 on my list would have to be The Invisible Man. Invisible. This movie, I really didn't have any expectations going into it. I mean, the trailers for this movie were atrocious, to be honest, but actually watching the movie, I was like, wow, this movie is a strong movie about like abuse and trying to survive abusive relationships, but how like the abusers will come after the people who have been abused, and I'm just like, wow, I didn't think this would be what the movie was about this invisible man. This movie was full of terror and surprises, and I watched it in theaters in February, and I jumped quite a few times watching the movie, and I'm just like, wow, Lee Wynell, the director, you really are amazing. I mean, he did Upgrade, like, I think in 2019, and I thought that movie was good, but this movie really tops that one, and I'm just like, wow, Lee Wynell as a director, He is going places, you guys. He's going places. Also, it must be said that Elizabeth Moss was amazing in this movie, and I think it was cute how for a certain amount of time when this pandemic was happening, people were like, oh, Elizabeth Moss is going to get her Oscar nomination for The Invisible Man since there aren't that many movies coming out. But you know what? As we are now in 2021, we can see that she ain't getting no nomination. Like, she's getting some critics nominations, but she ain't getting no Oscar nomination. But she is very brilliant in this movie, and you know what? I'm just like Elizabeth, like Tom Cruise, and Michael Pena. Y'all need to dump Scientology. Like, y'all need to escape. Please. It sucks to, like, you know, stand problematic actors like the three of y'all. Yeah, but this movie, it was quite terrifying at times, as I said before, and scary. And yeah, I think this movie is amazing. There's a reason why its Rotten Tomato score, I think, is still in the 90s and certified fresh. Like, I don't know if it went down from the last time I saw it, but high 90s is what this movie deserves. It deserves a lot of praise, and I'm really hoping that Lee Whannell's next project, I think he already has it signed up, but whatever it is, that he does an even better job with that movie, and he just continues to, you know, show Hollywood what he's made out of. At number 3 on my list would have to be the amazing Weathering with You, and I gotta say, you guys, that I saw Your Name, and I was not really that impressed with that movie story-wise, but when it comes to Weathering with You, I was blown away. The animation in this movie is amazing. It's gorgeous, it's stunning, it's so beautiful, and I'm like, they really topped the animation in Your Name, and I'm just watching this movie, and I'm just like, wow, they really did that. Makoto Shinkai and the people at that animation house in Japan really did that, you guys. The story of the movie is quite interesting, the whole weather girl thing and making it rain and all that, but you know, I gotta say, just like with Your Name, like the last third of the movie really went off the rails, but you know what, unlike Your Name, I was like, I don't really care because I'm very invested in the story, so I don't care that this is kind of like weird, the ending of this movie, but I was like, I'm here and I like it a lot. Just like with Buffalo, it says this movie came out in 2019, but it was available to watch in theaters in 2020 here in the US, so I saw it in January, and it was one of the first movies I saw of the year, and I was just blown away by the movie, and LOL, when I saw it in theaters, it was all white people and Asian people, and I was like, yeah, I guess is the demographic of this movie, but you know what, I had a great time watching it, and not gonna lie, I almost cried watching it in theaters. And honestly, when the Your Name cameos appear in the movie, people in the theater were screaming and yelling, and I was like, why are they doing this? And then when I realized why, I was like, well, I'm not that big of a fan of Your Name, so that's why I didn't remember these characters, even though they're the main characters of Your Name. If you have HBO Max and you haven't seen Weathering with You, then you should go and watch it now because they just added Weathering with You to their streaming service, and I'm just gonna say watch it with the Japanese and like put the subtitles on, because the English dub, even though I love the actors Lee Pace, Riz Ahmed, and Alison Brie, like the voice work that I saw on there was just not it, so you know, just watch it with the original Japanese like audio on and put the English subtitles on, and it'll be great, trust me. At number 2 on my list would have to be the movie Mank. I really was not feeling this movie from like the pre-production stuff that was coming out about it. I was like, ugh, Gary Oldman, ugh, a movie about the making of Citizen Kane, barf. I was like, ugh, David Fincher, don't you have anything better to do with your time? But you know, after actually watching the movie, I was like, huh, this is not what I expected at all, and it's much, much better than what I thought it was gonna be. I just love how political this movie really is. I mean, the first third of the movie is all about old Hollywood, but like the last 2/3 of the movie, which is a huge portion of the movie, is more about like the political aspects of the time. And you know, I really like how this movie relates to what's going on in like the 1930s or whatever this time period is. I think it's like 1920s, 1930s, and how like what we're going through now is kind of basically exactly the same thing they were going through. And I'm just like, wow. David Fincher's father wrote the script, and I'm like, I think it was like early 2000s, and I'm like, he saw what we were not seeing in the early 2000s, and now we're here in 2021, and we're like, huh, we're still having the same debates that were being talked about in this movie, and in this time period, and I'm just like, gag, you guys, gag. You know, if you watched my Mank review, you would know that I thought Gary Oldman was okay in this movie, but I thought he was kind of miscast. And you know what? I was like, in that video, I was like, oh, Oscar nomination inbound because, you know, he's a part of this movie, blah, blah, blah. And that's just how it works, because this movie is definitely going to get all the big nominations. But now we're in 2021, and things have, like the critics circles and all that have come out more, and predictions now have cast that Gary Oldman ain't getting no Oscar nomination, and I'm just like, because he shouldn't, you guys, because he shouldn't. But you know who is still in the running to get an Oscar nomination? Amanda Seyfried. Yes, my girl, Amanda Seyfried. Yes! That Best Supporting Actress race is kind of a toss-up, but I still think that Amanda Seyfried is the front runner. I think the grandma from Minori, if she gets nominated, could be a very big threat. I haven't seen Minori, but I hear that the grandma in that movie is amazing. So I'm just like, okay, Amanda Seyfried, we are in danger, but I want you to win because, I don't know, she was just amazing in this movie. And I just keep thinking about the scene that she has between her and Gary Oldman at the end of the movie where they're having that picnic, and she's just talking about how they don't know Pops and the thing that we have together and how he actually is. And I was like, wow, she really is getting me about to cry, but like she's holding back tears because she doesn't want to show that tears in my eyes. But anyway, I was just like, it was a very emotional scene, and I was like, when she was like, if the movie doesn't get made, I hope you can forgive me. And I was like, Amanda, not only are you serving looks, comedy, and like all that in this movie, but you are serving acting and emotion without ever having to cry. And I'm like, that, my dears, is support. She did what a supporting actor in a movie should be doing. And that's why, right now, at this time period, in the moment of filming, I say that Amanda Seyfried should win Best Supporting Actress. Thank you very much, you guys. Yeah, I think it's crazy how some people haven't watched Mank. I mean, I talked to my best friend about like movies on Netflix, and my best friend is all about Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, but I'm all about Mank when it comes to like the awards movies from Netflix this year. And my best friend said, well, I ain't ever watching Mank, and my mind was like, that sucks, cause this movie's pretty great. It is almost my #1 movie of the year, but it sucks. I mean, I watched Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I thought it was good, but not good enough to make my top 10. But, choices, and taste of people. We have different tastes, and I'm just like, okay. But I'm just like, watch Mank. Watch Mank, because I think it is an incredibly great movie, both like story-wise and like technicality, because the technical aspects of this movie are amazing, and they pretty much probably will win Oscars for the technical categories alone in this movie. So yeah, watch Mank because it is a great movie. And finally, at #1 on my list, it would have to be Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And I know what a lot of people are going to say, this movie came out in 2019, but only in limited release. Like, when I was able to finally see this movie in theaters, it was March of 2020. And it was honestly the last movie I was able to see in 2020 before I got to see Freaky in November when theaters opened back up here in Washington. So, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, like, was a moment in theaters, and, just the best movie that came out in 2020. Technically, it came out in 2020. Technically, that I saw. Period. The distributor Neon was too busy, campaigning Parasite. And, Neon's a very small, distributor, so they didn't have enough money to push Parasite and Portrait of a Lady on Fire. But, it really sucks because Portrait of a Lady on Fire is an amazing movie. It is one of the most moving movies I've ever seen in my whole life. It's beautiful, it's stunning, it's so well crafted, so well acted. Everything about it is amazing, and I just would have liked to have seen it gotten Oscar nominations, and it really should have. Celine Sciamma, wow. Her direction in this movie is powerful. It is amazing. I mean, I'm just breathless trying to even think about what to say about this movie and the work that Celine did on this movie, because it's honestly a perfect movie. There's nothing wrong that I can find with this movie. The performances from Nomi and Adele, I think that's how you say their names. I'm not going to even try to say their last names. But those two girls, those two women, they did that. They are at the pantheon of greatest performances that I've seen on cinema, in film, in movies, in just general. And honestly, I think that their romance in this movie is one of the best LGBTQ romances that I've seen depicted in film. At all. My favorite scene in this movie, I mean, there are a lot of amazing scenes in this movie, but the scene where they're at that bonfire with all those women, servants, maids, whatever, and they all start singing and they all start clapping, and they're doing that sounds like something like that. I'm just like, wow, this is just a beautiful moment. It's beautiful, it's haunting. And I'm when Adele's dress in the movie at that point catches on fire and she becomes Lady on Fire, I'm just like, this is a beautiful. Wow, I was gagged watching it. I was like, wow. If you haven't seen this movie yet, what are you doing? What are you, yes you, doing? I mean, it's available to stream on Hulu, so if you have Hulu, you can watch it on Hulu. And if you love collecting Blu-rays like I do, it came out on the Criterion Collection, so you can buy it on Blu-ray or DVD from them. Seriously, we gotta support the lesbians. Let's go lesbians, as, who? Billy Eichner said in that infamous, like, clip that I love seeing of, like, him and, like, all the lesbians running and him going, let's go lesbians, we need to support the lesbians. With that, that is my whole top 10 movies of 2020 that I was able to see. I mean, I've seen a good amount of movies, and there were a lot of other movies that I thought were great, but just didn't make this list because they weren't, like, super attractive to me, and I didn't really want to talk about them, which means, like, they weren't my favorite top 10. But you know what? I still have a lot more movies from 2020 to see, like movies that were playing in theaters, so I have to wait for them to come on streaming, or movies on streaming that I just haven't gotten around to seeing yet. Like, there's the whole Small Axe film collection from Steve McQueen on Amazon, and like The Sound of Metal, and like, yes, as I said, I'm waiting to watch Promising Young Woman. So there are a lot of movies from 2020 that I'm still waiting to see, so hopefully I can see them soon, and you know, hopefully 2021 has more movies to offer. Tell me down below in the comments what you guys thought were the best movies of 2020. I mean, there were very slim pickings because not that many movies came out in 2020 that were good. And I mean, a lot of people will say there are a lot of good indie movies, but you know what? Some of the indie movies either I haven't gotten around to, or like they are not available for me to watch yet, so I still have to wait. Also, as I said earlier, if you like what you saw here, then why not go subscribe? And if you have a Letterboxd, I have a Letterboxd, and I'm always like watching a movie every day on Letterboxd. So if you like what I had to say here and you think I have an interesting like thought process on movies, then you know, follow me on Letterboxd too, because as I said, I'm always on Letterboxd and I have something interesting to say about movies all the time. Is it going to be something good to say? I don't know, but anyways, you guys, thank you for coming to my channel and watching this video, and you know, I will see you guys maybe in the next video. Yep, yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you guys. Bye.